Hey guys, it's Comics G-Man here. Just gonna do a review on Lucky Strike. Just saw it today on what the hell is today? June 30th, Tuesday. Saw it at 12:10. Saw it at the Laser AMC Theater. And what do I have to say about this film? Well, before I go on to what other people are saying, I didn't read it yet totally, but here was my initial reaction from it. Now, why did I see Lucky Strike to begin with? Well, I saw Lucky Strike because I'm a huge Clint Eastwood fan thanks to my grandpa. My grandfather got me into Clint Eastwood at a very young age. Love Gran Torino, Trouble with the Curve, Dirty Harry, you name it. Most of his great movies are as he got older too, like really some of the best. Mystic River, go down the line. So I wanted to give this a shot because Scott Eastwood is his son. And I figured, give him a shot. That's the least I owe Clint Eastwood for all the great movies that he did. Now, how was this movie? Well, the movie starts off where Lucky Strike in here. I don't even remember. I honestly do not even remember the character's name. I think it was just John. John, who Scott Eastwood plays, was some kind of an engineer in America, and we find out later in the film that he he warred in Africa at one point, and once they found out that he was an engineer, they sent him to Germany. This is where the Battle of the Bulge happens, although they don't really go into much detail about the battles. This is really just a survival thriller movie. That's all it is. It's not really a historical movie. And clearly, I still, it amazes me how people are always interested or believe in the bullshit where these movies say based on a true story. Well, this didn't even say that. This said based on true events. Kind of general, right? But I've come to learn not to believe anything that says based on a true story. I think the most accurate movie you would watch is a movie like Ray Charles. You're going to be like, dude, what do you mean? Well, at least Ray Charles himself was working on the movie with the whole, all of that. So he had some say on the movie. So I think it's the closest we could get to knowing an actual real story. So stories like that in movies, I take a little more with when you know they're actually the guys are working behind it and they have the actual person it's based off of, like putting in their 2 cents. I mean, I'll have to do some research on this. Probably is based off of a true story, but a little suspicious that it says based on true events. But this is just a survival thrill. This is basically Lone Survivor, but in World War II. And not that that's a horrible thing, because Lone Survivor is one of my favorite war movies because it shows you so many different things. It shows you that there are good people in places you wouldn't even think. So I loved the way they did that movie. Mark Wahlberg was great in that. The action scenes were horrifically gruesome. You felt every aching moment that they went through. But does Lucky Strike come off that way? No, Lucky Strike is kind of it's having a hard time trying to find what it's supposed to be. It goes from World War II historical thing for like 5 seconds to survival thriller with Scott Eastwood to now then a spy or something pops up at the end of the movie, and that's why I'm saying throughout the movie, I'm saying to myself, why is this movie called Lucky Strike? Now in the beginning, when we went into movie theaters, my mom was like, oh, they call it Lucky Strike because of the cigarettes that they used to smoke. That was the brand. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. But even as the movie was going on, I'm like, they can't just be calling this movie Lucky Strike just because of some cigarettes, right? Like there has to be a moment where the cigarette plays some kind of a plot, role or something, and it does. But frankly, when that moment comes in the movie, spoilers alert, spoiler, when that plot moment for the Lucky Strike comes in, it falls flat. It absolutely falls flat. Now, this movie currently has a 5.9, and I would say that's fair. I would say that's fair. I would probably give it a 6 out of 10, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. It's not a terrible movie. It's not a great movie, but it has some really, really great moments in there. And I would say Scott Eastwood is great. I really enjoyed the moments with him. In fact, when the movie started, I was actually worried that this was going to be some kind of ensemble team movie where he was with his entire group of troops and they were about to blow up the path where the Germans were coming. But it doesn't happen. What happens is his entire team gets fucking killed, and he's the last guy alive. Is there any redeemable qualities about John? John is not that interesting. I won't lie. John is the character, I mean, that Scott plays. He's not that interesting. There are moments where he could be more interesting than they make him, but the script fails. The script fails to bring John to life on the screen. Scott couldn't bring this character to life if he tried to grimace as much as he could like his father. And look good on Scott, dude. Scott looks just like Clint. He looks just like Clint, so I don't blame him at all capitalizing on looking like Clint Eastwood. But if I would tell Scott one thing, I mean, he's still very young, obviously. I haven't actually seen any other movies that Scott has been in, if he has been. This is the first movie I've seen with Scott. But I would tell Scott personally, Scott, you're great. You got some potential here. I understand that you're filling in some big shoes because your father is Clint Eastwood. And obviously you're trying to act like him a lot. I mean, there are multiple times in this movie where I swear I saw Clint Eastwood again, which is awesome. Awesome. But I'm kind of hoping that Scott kind of finds himself in the future and he kind of fills his own boots and he makes something of himself more unique. Because you're not Clint Eastwood, Scott. I'm not saying that to be a dick. You seem like an awesome dude. Clint raised you well. I think he'd be proud of you. Nothing but love, Scott Eastwood. So, but all I'm saying is, I hope you grow more. I hope you find yourself more. And you find your own methods like Clint did. As Clint got older, Clint became his own thing. Now, yeah, he made some greats when he was young, but to me, as he got older and older, he just got better and better and better. And I think Scott has that same potential. Now, back to the whole movie itself. Now, there's more slow moving scenes in this movie than there should be. I think the script is a bit bloated. The movie is at 1 hour and 42 minutes. I think this movie would have been better served at 1 hour and 20 minutes or even 1 hour and 15 minutes. Just being nitpicky with that part, but it should be shorter. Because there's some dialogue scenes between the characters that just fall flat. I don't care about anybody else in the movie. I only care about Scott Eastwood's moments. The Germans are as one-dimensional as a comic book villain, which is fine because this is just an action thriller survival show movie. But there were some moments that I said they could have made this more interesting with a bit more of nuance. The movie is certainly missing that nuance. One example I could give you of some horrible script writing in this movie, when Scott Eastwood, this is when we find out why the movie is called Lucky Strike. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. After he's like surviving and barely becoming alive, he finally meets a soldier, the American soldier that, says he's from Milwaukee, and they're having a whole conversation with each other. We find out that this soldier is like some kind of spy working for the Germans. And he finds this out because as they're smoking their cigarettes together, the German soldiers dig in a ditch and he's throwing the cigarettes in there. The soldier eventually goes off to take a piss or something. And the soldier has some kind of German shepherd with him too, which was cool. And Scott is getting kind of like worried about it because as he was talking to him before, he's saying like, you like any sports? Oh, I'm not a baseball guy. Oh, what are you? Oh, I like football. Me and my family, we look at the naval things. It's like a tradition or blah, blah, blah. And like Scott is getting suspicious of this guy. Then he starts looking at the cigarettes in the ditch. and he notices that the soldier wasn't smoking the cigarettes the right way. He wasn't burning them where the Lucky Strike brand was showing. He was burning them the other side, and that's how he figured out. And then he also figured it out over the radio. The radio told him an SOI, which was a standard operation something, and the soldier didn't know what that was. And he wrote a letter of a secret code, and the soldier didn't know what it was. And they ended up fighting each other, and he did manage to kill the soldier. But the conversation between him and the soldier was utterly boring, and it wasn't as intense as it should have been. It was stupid. In fact, I think it ruined the whole film, because a lot of the best parts of Lucky Strike are the survival scenes and the action scenes that happen with Scott Eastwood. Scott shines in those intense scenes. He does a very good job. Not this, a superior example of this was Mark Wahlberg, how he acted in Lone Survivor. Some of the best survival scenes I've seen in a war movie, in my opinion. And Wahlberg had a fantastic supporting cast behind him. So that movie was just an unbelievable war movie. It still sticks with me to today. There was no good supporting cast in this at all. I mean, obviously it's just about Scott Eastwood. We see Scott Eastwood on the cover, but Lone Survivor, you saw Mark Wahlberg on the cover, and yet it still had a memorable, fantastic cast. I remember Mike Murphy. I remember everybody in it. Just a fantastic movie, and I'm sorry to compare it with Lone Survivor. I really am. It's not fair, but it just brought Lone Survivor came to my mind because this is like Lone Survivor in World War II, Battle of the Bulge atmosphere, Germany. And, it did a very good job with the environments. It did a very good job with the costumes, the suits, the guns. They didn't make any mistakes on the historical accuracy of how things looked. They did a very good job with that. The shooting scenes, the killing scenes were excellent. I saw I saw a review on here. We'll look at it in a second. I think the guy made some pretty good points. But let me go on off of more of what I think. Now, there were some great moments where I felt that they should have played more on Scott's cynicism of being in the war. There was a really, really fantastic part. There was this horse that he kept seeing as he was trying to survive and reach his destination in the movie, a beautiful white horse. He saw it 3 times in the movie. The third time he saw it, it started running away because explosions were starting to surround him, and because there was some kind of crossfire. There was the Americans and the Germans shooting at each other across the field, and he just happened to be in between it. He falls to the ground, and he's like screaming, make it stop, and he's screaming throughout the whole thing. That scene alone was fantastic, I thought. That was fucking phenomenal. I love that scene. But I think they should have played up more on his cynicism of the war. Kind of question what's going on here. But the goofy part about this was when he was talking to the spy. I'm like, wait a minute, so if a guy doesn't like baseball and he prefers watching football, you suspect him of being a Nazi? Alright, bro, so that's fucked up. That's kind of goofy. And then they had a weird line in there where, this was the only line that was an obvious, okay, the guy's a spy. It's pretty obvious. He's like, well, maybe we just don't understand the Germans. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. Hitler's a a monster. But he's, what did he say in the movie? But it's a great economy. He gave them a great economy, and he gave them this, he gave them that. And, Scott's like, what the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? But it was so dumb. It was so dumb, because I don't think they should have had that line in there, because I think they should have made the German soldier a little more clever, and it should have been more like we figured it out just by the Lucky Strikes and just by the SOI thing that Scott did. I think the conversation sucked, the dialogue sucked, and if you cut that out and just did it with the Lucky Strikes, that just would have been good enough. and I probably would have bumped this up to a half because the dialogue is just so boring. Like nothing about all the other characters interested me. Nothing, nothing at all. Um, Everyone was saying that Tom Hanks, someone related to him, Colin Hanks, was in it. And he didn't do shit. Look, I've seen so many war movies. Some of my favorite shows, like Band of Brothers, The Pacific, Iwo Jima, Letters of Iwo Jima, Letters from our Flags of Our Father. Although Iwo Jima, I loved Iwo Jima more. That was so good, that movie. I even saw some really old war movies I can't even remember. So I even seen Tony Curtis in Beachhead. Who here has seen Tony Curtis in Beachhead? I mean, that is a really like fringe like movie that nobody talks about. Nobody. Not a great movie, but I liked it. I did like it. I thought it was fun. So yeah, dude, I think 5.9 on IMDb is fair. So I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. And let me go over more of what other people are saying. Let's look at this review. I thought this guy had some good points. So this is written by Robert Koger. He talks about who directed it, everybody who was in it. Scott Eastwood was the only memorable guy in here, in my opinion. Great cover. Love the cover of the poster they have. We don't have to go over the synopsis. I went over all of that for you. So let me just show you what I agreed with in this article. Look what he says here. I think this is a great point. The proceedings also have the unfortunate energy of a dry, educational, historical video one might encounter at a museum, lecturing on the absolute basics of World War II field operations. At times, it's as snoozy as watching someone play the most boring Call of Duty campaign imaginable, complete with lengthy scenes of Scott Eastwood walking and crawling around, looking to avoid enemy detection, and sometimes getting dragged into mediocre firefights. Yeah, I agree, but I did like the firefights. I did like Scott Eastwood's performance. Some of the scenes felt unnecessary. Like you see this shot here with him in a flamethrower. There's a scene where there's like these two Germans that are upstairs, and they're just like doing their thing. Like one guy is shaving, the other guy is getting him his stuff, and he just like for no reason like climbs up and burns them with a flamethrower instead of just he could just easily walk away and they don't see him. But he just goes out of his way to kill them with a flamethrower. And like there are a lot, you know what? There are other moments in this movie where like he kills one guy in such a loud and violent way, and the other guy who just went off to do something else, like not even like 10 feet away, doesn't hear anything somehow. Like it's kind of dumb. Like I'm like, wait a minute, the other German guy's over there. He doesn't hear any of that. Like there's a few moments in there. It's like, wait a minute, like he should be getting swarmed by now by the Germans. You know, so there are some things like that in the movie that didn't make sense. Once again, it bears mentioning that, look what he says here, there isn't anything heroic about Captain Castle, since whenever he is put in a position to potentially save someone, they die. This is confoundingly made light of after the survival portion, where Castle's superior says that letting your men die is one of those things that happen. And what really matters is that the parents and children around America are still safe. Even more bafflingly hilarious is the "For the Boys" end credits tag, followed by World War II photographs of soldiers with no connection to the cast members whose names appear on screen or the characters they play. Yeah, dude, like I hated that speech as well at the end. I thought it was fucking gay. You know, like you ever play fucking band Brothers in Arms, Hell's Highway, Earned in Blood, or Road to Hill 30? You ever play those games when you were a kid? Do you remember Baker, how much he fucking cared about his group? And every time you lose a fucking soldier, you fucking feel it? And I remember me and my friend, he used to say, oh, I play Halo Combat Evolved, and I always feel horrible when I lose a Marine. I do everything I can to keep the Marines alive. You know what I'm saying, dude? Like, it's so true. Band of Brothers, Halo, Combat Evolved, at least. I just remember that. But like Band of Brothers, dude. I mean, Brothers in Arms, like, made you feel that way. But in this, it's like they're saying, these boys are just supposed to be meat, you know, lambs to the slaughter. That's just what they're supposed to do, boy. Like, I hated the speech. It was uninspiring. It came off cold. It came off fucking evil, if you want to know the truth. It came off fucking evil. I don't even know Patton said anything as fucking cold and malevolent as what they showed at the end of this movie. Like Patton was a pain in the ass to the boys, but I think he fucking cared about his men. I do, in his own fucked up way. But when this guy at the end, when he's talking to John, it's true. This is exactly what he says. Letting your men die is one of those things that happen. Letting your men die. Letting your men die. I don't remember that kind of talk in Lone Survivor. I don't remember that at all. Every fucking guy in Lone Survivor who fucking dies, you fucking feel for their life. Each individual man that gets killed in that. So, in this movie, I feel like they kind of watered down the men who die in the war. I really feel that way. So, I mean, honestly, dude, just for that, I should actually give it more like a 5 out of 10. But I'm not. I'm still sticking with the 6 out of 10 for Scott. I think it's fair for Scott. But I don't like that message. I really don't. I think that was ridiculous. I think it would have been better if the man said something more like, this is what happens. This is war. Yeah, he could say that. But you could say, you're only a man. You can only do so much. I don't know anything but what he said, dude. Like, he just said it like, yeah, dude. These guys just exist just to go to the slaughter. Like, what do you expect? Like, he said it like that. It just came off kind of like cruel. It came off extremely cruel. And I'm surprised that they greenlit that piece into the movie. I actually am. And they're trying to come off like that's patriotic. Well, I guess it is patriotic to just die. Just die for our children and mothers to stay alive, which was so lame the way he said that. Well, how about fathers? Fathers don't count. My grandpa doesn't count. How about grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, right? Brothers, sisters, children, right? How come just mothers and children? Men don't count even in the civilian life. Just the woman and children. So men are just here to die for everybody. Wow, that's not nihilistic. That's not fucking meaningless. That fucking sucks. Because I mean, we do more than just die. We create, we build. We do more than just die. I'm just saying, we're not just here to die, and for nothing. Let's go on to what this guy says. For some reason, we even see him under fire in the prologue, accompanied by some atrocious color grading. Yeah, I agree with that. None of this amounts to anything since it transitions into Captain Castle's survival story, which largely has nothing to do with her son. Yeah, he's talking to this lady, and we find out, spoiler, he came to her because she was one of the workers who made the radio that he used to survive. He thanked her, got her pension from the company that was being mean to her, and apparently she had a son that she lost, and I don't know if he was one of the guys that we see in the beginning of the movie that get killed. They didn't explain that too well, but I think it was. And the shoddiness of that framing device is something that easily could have been forgiven if the wartime survival aspect of Lucky Strike were remotely engaging. Its numerous attempts to thrill never come to life, and Scott Eastwood simply has no charisma. I disagree with that. While not fitting the part of the era or war itself, I disagree with that. Navigating battlefields without a scratch on his face or hair dirty up. Yeah, well, he's right about that part. It's a story of dumb luck, not survival, and while not necessarily outright terrible, an almost lifeless one at that, which adds nothing to the legacy of the Battle of the Bulge. Yeah, I agree. This movie isn't as deep as it should have been. Kind of nihilistic. It's one thing to be cynical and to make the audience question about war, which I would agree with, but the movie doesn't even do that. It just doubles down on war and death and just it doesn't feel like just because they say "for the boys" at the end credit scene, it doesn't make it any better that it feels a little nihilistic. Now I'm going to see Washington this week. Washington is probably It's made by Angel, so it's probably going to be a little like a cliche. But the one thing I am looking forward to seeing is it looks a lot like the Last of the Mohicans, so it should be kind of fun in that way. But I'll let you guys know about it. See, did anybody here see Lucky Strike? Because when I went to see it today, there was with my mom. It was just me and my mom and nobody else. Just like six old people because it was Tuesday. But that was it. And the movie theater in general for a summer day was totally dead. It's wild, bro. Wild. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for listening. Like and sub, I guess.